Hello, welcome to my channel. Today's card is the Tower. I know this is a card that scares a lot of people, but it's possibly one of my favourite cards. I often say that, don't I? But it is one of my favourite cards. It's one of the most powerful cards of the tarot. It's one of the reasons I love the tarot. And as I've said in a previous video, I've chosen to look at the tarot now because it has been my card of the year, and also because I think it's actually a really useful card to think of when we're going from an old year into a new year. I think I've got a great Kate Bush song as well, amazing Kate Bush song also to talk about. And I've got two versions of the card because the first one didn't work out, but I will show you both. Right, so I'll try and be quickly through this. It's often one of the best cards in most tarot packs, I think. I remember Mary Waite said she was actually quite fearful, I think, of actually painting this. But it's such a forceful card, this. It shows that all that fire energy that is in the card. So as I said, it is my card for this year. So this time last year, I did my year ahead spreads, which meant I chose a card for each month. And I also chose two cards, which were like the themes for the whole year. A minor arcana, which was a Page of Wands, which I was excited about, and a major arcana, which was the Tower. And I inwardly groaned because I think, in a nutshell, the Tower is about being forced to give up something that you're reluctant to give up, but is in your best interests. It's a structure that has become outdated, but something that you're not probably going to choose to leave unless life forces you to, which is the really powerful image and the message, I think, in the Rider-Waite with these two figures here falling out of the tower. But it is such a horrifying image, and it has so many different connotations. And it's one of those archetypes in the tarot that, you know, some of the archetypes now seem a little bit old-fashioned, like something like the High Priestess is probably something that we don't really relate to now in today in the modern world, or we have to kind of think around it. But the Tower is, you know, has very recent kind of connotations of tragedy, of 9/11, the Grenfell fire in London, has some really kind of nightmarish, I mean, I'm sure lots of people have nightmares about towers as well. And it is that idea of we build something, a structure, and the Tower can be this kind of, you know, it can keep us safe, or we feel it can keep us safe. That's our intention, to protect us. It seems to serve its use at the time, but it can also isolate us. There's something competitive about it. It is this phallic symbol of competition and people trying to, you know, which you have, like, I mean, I remember, perhaps less so now, but I remember in London, I think of like in the 80s and 90s, how there's that race to have the biggest skyscraper, and in other cities as well. And it was a way of asserting your power as a company, as an architect. It was, as a city, as the whole, your kind of vision. But that makes you vulnerable. There is, as I said, there is an isolation there. There is a vulnerability to that lightning, to attack, to disaster. And there comes a point when the Tower is no longer helping us. The Tower is keeping us small or restricted, or it's like a misunderstanding. And at its mildest level, it's like a misunderstanding. At its most powerful level, it is about completely changing how we view life and our limitations. I love the Thoth one as well, because this is like almost, I mean, you've got this fire coming out of this huge mouth. It reminds me of something like out of a Francis Bacon painting. It's so fierce, but then there's this eye that is kind of overseeing the destruction, but also maybe the enlightenment that comes afterwards. You have this kind of serpent or dragon figure, but you also have the dove. So there is a hope through it, but it might not feel like that while we're going through that process. For me, this year, I think it has been a lot about me still trying to come to terms with, so I'm on the waiting list actually for my autism diagnosis. I've been on the waiting list for 3 years. I have got close family members who are autistic. I have known I've been autistic since before I put my name on that waiting list, but certainly, and there has been a little bit of me thinking, well, do I need a diagnosis? Because I know I don't really need someone external to tell me. So that's one factor, but I am still on the list, and maybe I do want that validation. It's possible that I do still want someone to say, but I have, this year I've had moments where which I think is normal, because I haven't got that official diagnosis, and I think it's normal just coming to terms with it, because I'm so, I'm 51 now. It is most of my life I have not thought of myself as autistic, and suddenly there's this kind of label, if you like, that seems to make sense of my life. But I oscillate, so I go from embracing it and embracing that identity. And I did do and I'll probably link it actually, because I think I would really recommend it for anyone who is neurodivergent and coming to terms with that and the whole politics of it. I did an amazing course with Kate Fox, and I'll link that. And I'd highly recommend that. And that was one of the positives of me coming to terms with this new identity, this new way of seeing myself. But there have been times as well where I have tried to push myself through and to do things that I would have done before I realised I was autistic, and certainly before I had burnout, because I had burnout around 5 or 6 years ago. And this year I have realised whenever I've tried to push myself through that, I have not been able to. As I said, I've just had a mini burnout again, which felt a little bit like a tower moment. It felt like, someone saying, that old structure that you built, that life that you built before you knew you were autistic, that's not actually going to work for you anymore. And whenever you try and do that, you're just going to get ill or sick or stressed. So you're going to have to stop. But there has been an element, definitely, of me resisting that, and of life forcing me to face that. So I think that's where it's come up for me this year. I'm just going to quickly show you, lastly, this one, which is from the Sweet Twilight tarot. It was the first tarot pack I ever bought. I was a little bit scared of the tarot. I've been fascinated by the tarot since I was a teenager, or earlier, I think. I think I asked for my first tarot reading when I was 11, and my mum, it was at some sort of RSPCA, which is like an animal protection charity, and they had a fair on, and there was a caravan, and someone was doing these this sort of traditional caravan, and someone was doing these readings from there, and I wanted £1 to do the reading. And I remember asking my mum for money, and she wouldn't give it to me. And she said, well, I think you get a bit worried what if they say something bad? And she was probably right. So, and then I had my very first tarot reading when I was 18, 19. And I have always been fascinated, but I've been scared of it too. And so I gravitated to this Sweet Twilight because it felt like a cozy, quite, I suppose there's quite a teen-like images. I think some people have sort of compared it sort of a Tim Burton kind of style. But this is a nice, if you can have a cozy tower, I think this is a cozy tower, because the tower is being destroyed, but the girl is on the branch with her teddy and she is watching it. So she's got some perspective. In a way, I think this is the after. So I think when the tower, the moment it's happening, it can feel like these two cards. And then when you get to the learning and you realise, actually, yeah, I did need to let go of that. You know, I have learned something. And it can be a really painful situation. I don't want to minimise it, because it can be really, this can be really difficult energy. There's a lot of grief involved in this and a lot of struggle. It can be really hard, but this is the hope. I think the hope is sitting there on the branch with your comfort, with your teddy. The sun's coming up and it's burning away now. It's gone. That tower is, you know, it's crumbling. You wouldn't want to live there. You're going to have a nicer home. You're going to have a nicer life afterwards, eventually. I think that is the promise of the tower. And that could be a promise for the next year. If you've had a difficult year, that can be the promise. Maybe you're feeling like this at the end of 2025. And things, this is your hope as well. Right, so after all that, and that's quite a long intro, I'm going to quickly talk about the Kate Bush song. So this was my first attempt. Right, let me just show you that and then I'll explain why I rejected it. So the song is from Never Forever and it is breathing. And so I took this image of her from the video as she's like a kind of fetus in the womb, but I think also she's sort of thinking almost like she's the spirit form. So I think in later conversations, she said it's almost like she's the future generations. That's what she represents. And there's a nuclear fallout and it's not safe. It's not safe now for her to come onto Earth to be reborn. And I tried to get a good image for this. It ended up printing it. So it came out too faint anyway. So I was really unhappy with that. And it just came out too wishy-washy. It felt like it lacked any of the power or impact. This seemed more to me like, I don't know, it's maybe cups or some sort of other energy, but it felt too wishy-washy. So I rejected that. And then I remembered, and I thought, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. And then I found another picture from the Breathing album, which I'll show you in a minute. And I also remembered one of my other favourite tarot cards of the Tower, which is also from one of my favourite decks, which is the Ithell Colquhoun one. I love this. It's like a big eye again, and there's so much force here. So I thought I was inspired by these colours. I could not do. She used enamel paint, which I haven't got. Excuse me. And she used, I don't know, she used this sort of dribbling technique and pouring it. And I haven't quite got the hang of it. So I think there is an early video, but I've never been able to find it of her actually making these tarot cards. But I love the colour and I love the force of it. So what I did was a very bad imitation of that with, this is Kate Bush from the video again. And this is her at the end. It's at the very end of the video. And they've got their like protective suits on, and there's, it's quite, actually, I'm not quite sure what to make of the ending. You seem to have this nuclear explosion, but then they seem to be quite kind of living this new life at the end, a new, more peaceful society, or maybe it's the society we could have. And I loved this lyric because I thought that was the main question of the tower. What are we going to do without? So we've been deprived of something, we've lost something, and now what are we going to do? And this almost reminded me, even actually I've noticed they've both got blue skin here, haven't they, of this girl here. She's looking on at the explosion. She's not being thrown out, she's aware and she's looking on. And I thought there was that same sense of Kate Bush here, which would give it a little bit more of a perspective and hope. So I wanted the power of the tower with maybe a little bit more of the optimism. Now, what is being... I'll just actually, let me just read what Kate Bush has said about this song. When I wrote the song, it was from such a personal viewpoint. It was just having heard a thing for years without it ever getting through to me. Till the moment it hit me, I hadn't really been moved. Then I suddenly realised the whole devastation and disgusting arrogance of it all, trying to destroy something that we've not created, the earth. And yeah, that's like even more relevant now, not just because of the potential for nuclear disaster, but also the, climate disaster. And I think what I just want to say quickly in relation to this song, and then maybe just gives another perspective on the tower. I don't think the tower is the destruction of Earth. The tower is all the mechanisms of capitalism, of selfishness, of environmental destruction, of violence, of war. It's all those things that we have built as man that are becoming increasingly less sustainable, or they're not sustainable. I mean, in this country, just to say one more, maybe this is a little bit political, but I'll say it anyway. In this country, we have, the present government and the government before, always talking about growth. We need growth of the economy. We need growth of this. And what does that growth come at the expense of? That growth, we can't actually carry on producing and consuming as much as we have without carrying on destroying the planet, I would say. So we are at this point as a species where surely we realise that this tower that we have built is not sustainable, and at some point, if we don't get out of this tower we have built for ourselves, that something is going to come along and destroy it for us. And the sad thing is then destroy Earth as well. The Earth will have to suffer too. I don't know. I mean, maybe this is dark, and I said I wasn't going to be too dark for this. But I have optimism for the Earth itself, because I think the Earth will regenerate after us. But I wonder if we as a species can carry on living on this Earth, because we seem intent on destroying it and is destroying ourselves. So that is part of the message of the tower, I think. And maybe that is a little bit heavy, but it is something that we need to face, and something that, like, I really resonate with Kate Bush when she says, it was just through having heard a thing for years without it ever having got through to me. And I think that is our position now as well. Certainly my position. And it's hard because it makes us feel powerless, but maybe it's still we need to face it rather than just ignoring what's happening. Anyway, so if you've stayed to the end of this, thank you. But as I said, it's a powerful card. It's such a powerful archetype, and I think it is the way I believe in it and why I have faith in it and in the tower in itself and in our unconscious in itself is I think it is trying to help us. I think it is there giving us a support, a message of support. I will link 2 songs, 2 versions of this song, sorry. So I'll link the video, obviously, and if you want to see this bit, it's right at the end. I don't think she's got a blue face in the video, and perhaps they changed their mind about her. Everyone else seems to have a blue face. And I will also link, there is a live piano version of Kate Bush singing this song. I absolutely love seeing Kate Bush, just her and the piano. I'd love it if she did an album of just her playing the piano. I think that would be incredible. And it does feel a really personal song when she sings it. So if you haven't heard that live version, you are in for such a treat. Anyway, thank you as always for watching, and thanks for staying with this and this difficult energy. I wish you all the best for 2026, and I will be back with, I think my next card is going to be the Queen of Pentacles, which is a lovely energy, and I've now done all the Queens as well, and I'm really pleased with the Queens. The Queens are my favourite cards, set of cards that I have done so far. Anyway, thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.